This lesson is about calculating the surface area of a cylinder. In order to calculate the surface area of a cylinder, we must use the following formula. Surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. Well, what exactly does that mean? Well, we should recognize pi from grade 7 as being the number 3.14. So when we do our calculations, we're going to substitute this number in for the value of pi. R represents the radius, which is the distance from the center of the circle to an outside edge. So it would look something like this piece out here. And the height represents the actual height of the cylinder itself, which is usually written on the side of the cylinder. So that explains pi, r, and h. But what do the actual parts of the whole formula mean? Well, you might recognize pi r squared as being the area formula for a circle. So we have 2 here because in a cylinder we have 2 circles, one on the top and one on the bottom. And you can see over here on the side as well, 1 circle on the top and 1 circle on the bottom. So the first part of the formula represents 2 circles. And the second part of the formula represents the middle section of the cylinder. So you can remember the formula by remembering that the surface area is 2 circles plus the middle section. Another formula that might be helpful is the formula of a radius, which we learned in grade 7, because you need the radius number in order to do these calculations. So you can find the radius by taking any diameter and dividing it by 2. And remember, the diameter is the distance across the entire circle passing through the center. So take a minute and write down the formula and make sure that you understand what each element of the formula represents. The first example is asking us to calculate the surface area of the cylinder. So like we would do in any example, we start by writing the formula. So the surface area equals 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. The next step is to actually fill in the numbers. Well, 2 times pi, which is 3.14, times the radius, which in my picture is right here, 3.8, plus 2 times 3.14, running into our diagram here, times my radius of 3.8, times my height of 2.3. Just fit it in. And as you can see, the height is here. So what we do next, forgot my squared term, what we do next is we actually work it out. Well, remember that 3.8 squared means 3.8 times 3.8. So if I work out this entire piece, 2 times 3.14 times 3.8 squared, I would get an answer of 90.6832. And I need to add to that this side, which is 2 times 3.14 times 3.8 times 2.3. And I would get an answer of 54.8872. Well, if I add those two together, I would get 145.5704. And usually we would round that to the nearest tenth, so we would record an answer of 145 6/10, our unit being feet, and because it's an area, we must square it. So your total surface area of the cylinder would be 145 6/10 feet squared. Again, we could get a word problem, and the key word for surface area is looking for something that's going to be covered. So in this example, we have a cylindrical container full of goodies as a gift for your friend. How much wrapping paper will you need to wrap the gift? Well, if we're wrapping the gift, we're covering the gift, so it's surface area. So we start by writing the formula, 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi RH. Notice in this diagram we are given a diameter. So the first thing that we have to do is determine the radius by taking the diameter and dividing it by 2. So that gives me 10 divided by 2, which gives me a radius of 5. So I just do these workings over to the side. So when I fill in my formula, I have 2 pi, which is 3.14, my radius, which I worked out as 5 squared, plus 2 times my pi, which is 3.14, times my radius of 5, times my height of my cylinder right here of 21. We're down into our diagram again. Now I have to work out each part. So first I'm going to do the multiplication before the addition sign. So 5 squared times 3.14 times 2 gives me an answer of 157. And now I'm going to do the second lot of multiplication over here. So 2 times 3.14 times 5 times 21 gives me an answer of 659 and 4/10. And if I add those two together, I would get 816.4/10, my unit being feet, and because it's surface area, it would be squared. So how much wrapping paper would I need? I would need 816 and 4/10 feet squared of wrapping paper. Sounds like I've been a pretty good friend, because that's a pretty big gift.